tattoos until we're able to remove some of it. Secondarily to that, there's also surveillance. A little bit later here in some of the photographs that one of the assistant sheriffs is going to talk to you about. There's also a lot of conversation that I hear out there about the fact that the identifications, the credit cards, and the number of things that I provided to you previously did not show up as burnt in the explosion in the vehicle. And so I did think it was important for me to address a couple of those issues so you understand where we're at. That's a photograph of the wallet. It's a leather wallet. Clearly, it's burnt up pretty well. However, that wallet was found in the back seat under some debris in the vehicle, and it contained, you'll see in this photograph, the credit cards, so a photograph, and a number of other pieces of identifying information. The military identification that I initially told you about was also located within inches of the wallet. And you'll see much of this stuff does have some burn damage on it. The passport that I described to all of you was found in the back, in the bed of the truck under debris as well, and you'll see a photograph of that in there. I also had mentioned to you that we were going to be doing dental records to identify the subject in the vehicle. The Department of Defense provided those dental records to us. We then forwarded them to the coroner, and the coroner also provided a positive identification for us. Finally, we had also requested DNA from the family, which was provided to us, and it matched to our suspect. We then, of course, had now confirmed fully his identity to you. There has been, again, a tremendous amount of investigative effort that has been conducted now, and I'm going to introduce to you Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin to go over some of the extensive investigation that has occurred. Dory?
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin. I oversee our Homeland Security and Investigative Services group, which includes our counterterrorism unit that's been working around the clock on this investigation. I just want to briefly share a few updates on some key areas to include the operational activity that led up to this incident, a little bit of information on the post-blast investigation as we know it today, and then finally some of the information that we're discovering most recently about motives and plans to give you some insight on why this individual committed the act that he committed. To begin just with the operational activity, the sheriff yesterday talked about the route that the suspect took to get to Las Vegas. We used a lot of this information to be able to track down video surveillance footage around different locations, as well as financial records, as well as call data records, as well as looking at the Tesla charging stations to be able to determine exactly which route the individual took, but more importantly, that it was the individual that we've identified, as well as the only individual in the vehicle during the path that he took to Las Vegas. As you'll see here in this video here at one of the charging stations, is just one example. You'll see our suspect here. He'll exit the vehicle. He'll walk around the vehicle at different times. At one point, you're going to see that he opens the door of the vehicle. He retrieves a coat. He puts that coat on, and you're going to see that at different parts to include the photo that the sheriff talked about just a few minutes ago. We use this video information as well as what I said earlier about the financial records in terms of purchases being made with different credit cards, call data records, a video canvas at multiple locations, trying to use all of that to corroborate that the individual that we've identified is the same individual that drove that Tesla during that route that we've identified to Las Vegas. In addition to that, we also talked about the phones that were recovered. There were 2 phones that we recovered from the vehicle. Both phones were damaged. We are still trying to access the data in one of the phones, but we have been fortunate in our team, which is second to none, has done a really good job accessing the data in one of the phones that was recovered. You can see the phone here in the vehicle. It's very burnt from the outside. You can see another image here. But we're able to take this phone,
drives all this way,
data using a variety of different tools. And in that, we've identified a whole variety of information. But one thing in particular is there was an application in there that the suspect used to take notes. In that application, one of the notes is titled Surveillance Log by the Suspect. It appears to be more of a journal of activity. It dates for about 10 days leading up to the incident from December 21st to December 31st of this past year. In that surveillance log, or as we would like to call it, a journal, because it's more of a diary of activity that he's conducting, we identify multiple locations that match what we have in the route. We identify activity that we've matched. So, for example, him purchasing firearms, him purchasing camping equipment or other types of equipment that were used in this incident matched what our data showed in terms of the route and the video surveillance we were recovering along that route. Beyond the operational activity, I want to also get a little bit into the post-blast investigation. So make no mistake, this is a suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or short, it's a suicide VBID. We know also, as mentioned by the sheriff yesterday, there was a self-inflicted gunshot wound by the suspect. The coroner was very specific.
With a Desert
in their
Eagle.
examination, it was an intraorbital gunshot wound, which essentially means that the suspect put the firearm in his mouth.
Slow down, honey. Too fast, Trevor, too fast.
I know what I'm doing, Mom.
A
new driver.
To confirm that he's the only individual involved and the only individual in the vehicle. We did a variety of video and photo comparisons to match the clothing. So if you look here, for example, this is a video in Las Vegas, and you're going to see in a moment here where he parks the Tesla truck. He comes out, and you're going to see some descriptive clothing that matches some of the other video that we've recovered along the route.
We did all of this to
Please keep
set
in
the
mind,
car
this is
on
a very
fire.
extensive investigation, so there's a lot of content for us to review and examine. We're just showing examples and samples as we get them.
Park carefully.
There's more
You don't wanna
information
scratch
as we
that car
go
you're
through
about to
it.
blow up.
But in this video, you can see even the distinctive jacket that he is wearing in that vehicle. The other thing that's important is the sheriff mentioned yesterday that Tesla sent to us engineers to come to Las Vegas to help us extract data from the vehicle. Thanks to their support, we were able to extract an SDMI chip from the Tesla vehicle, and Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident. Finally, the last category just to touch on is motive, which I know everyone is very eager to try to understand and be able to explain what happened. I'll reiterate what the sheriff said is we still have a large volume of data to go through and a lot of content to go through. As you know, with any one of our devices, there's thousands, if not millions, of videos and photos and documents and web history and all of those things that need to be analyzed. But with that, just as a preview for as we get information, we're trying to be as transparent. Intending to release those initial letters so people can understand best they can what the person's thought process was at one point in time. However, please understand there is still a lot more content to go through, and that may change. There may be a lot more information that we recover that explains either more or shows a change in mindset at different times. Just before I turn it over to FBI Special Agent Spencer Evans, I just want to take a note and just mention what the sheriff said, which is our counterterrorism section and all of the people involved in this have been working around the clock 24/7, tirelessly, truly through the night. They are second to none, and we really appreciate everything they're doing. With that, turn it over to the FBI.
All right, those messages that they managed to salvage do not.
Good afternoon. My name is Spencer Evans. I serve as the special agent in charge of the FBI's Las Vegas division. I'd like to express gratitude for everyone that's here today, and especially the partnerships that Sheriff Corrin just highlighted. It's been seamless collaboration between the FBI, ATF,
All right,
Army, CID, Las Vegas
all
Metropolitan Police Department.
Together.
You know, if you walked into one of the command posts and someone's not wearing a uniform, you wouldn't be able to tell who works for which agency. And it's been outstanding collaboration. We do have significant updates that we're sharing with you from an investigative standpoint, but just want to reiterate, as Sheriff Corrin mentioned, there is still a lot of ongoing investigation. We have terabytes of data that we have to analyze. We have outstanding search warrants and subpoenas, interviews that are being conducted around the globe.
They letting anybody go through his house?
Comprehensive picture of exactly
Journalists
what happened.
just walk around?
That being said, we do feel confident that we have a much better sense of how we arrived at the events of the 1st of January and additional information that we can provide. So I'd like to first begin by addressing something that continues to be widely speculated, whether or not there was any connection between what happened in New Orleans on New Year's Day and then the incident here in Las Vegas just a few hours later. Just to be clear, there is no evidence that these two events are connected.
This guy's contradicting
the only
what the
things
other
that we
guy
have connecting
just
them
suggested.
are incidental, what we believe to be coincidental
electric
similarities
EVs rented
in
from the
that
same platform.
both vehicles
in the
were
same
rented
military
through
base.
the same service, that they were both subjects served in the military, that they both stayed at an Airbnb, things like that. We've identified no telephonic or email communication between the subjects, No information that suggests that they knew each other, that they ever served in the same unit, that they were ever assigned at the same place at the same
I thought they
time
were
and
in
had
Afghanistan
interaction.
together
And no
in
witness
2009.
interviews have corroborated or provided any information that the two events are connected in any way. In similar fashion, we have not identified any connection between this subject and any other terrorist organization. Today, I wanted to highlight, I mentioned a tip that was unverified that the FBI had received. Sheriff McMahon will talk about this. It's now floating around there on podcasts. This is a tip that the FBI received after the bombing occurred that seemed to describe some of the personal grievances that the subject may have held. We still have not conclusively determined that that's from the subject, but feel confident based on evidence that we're uncovering on his devices that that was in fact from Leibelsberger. I want to reiterate that prior to this incident, the FBI did not have any information on this subject. He was not on our radar. He didn't have criminal history. There was nothing that we would have been looking into him for up until this point. Last thing I just wanted to highlight briefly is it's not lost on us. We understand that there were victims. While the subject himself was the only person that was deceased, there were several folks that were injured. And obviously, any sort of incident like this has a traumatic impact on the greater community and folks that are rightly so going to be scared and concerned, and some people that were inconvenienced and some that were taken to the hospital with injuries. We'd like to remind everyone that we're working with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department advocates, the Office of Emergency Services advocates, and the Southern Nevada Resiliency Justice Center to offer services to these victims. We recognize that there may be victims that are yet unidentified. So for those that might be suffering or otherwise impacted, we'd ask you to reach out to the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. And in similar fashion, as we reiterated yesterday, anyone who has tips related to the subject or this particular incident, please call us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov.
Okay.
And with that, I'll turn it over to the Assistant Special Agent in Charge from the ATF, Kenny Cooper.
Now there's going to be another 30 seconds of patting each other on the back, working closely together, amazing coordination, synergy. Oh, maybe not. Maybe this guy's going to get right to business.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh,
My
okay.
name is Kenny Cooper. I'm an Assistant Special Agent with ATF San Francisco Field Division. I have some very quick resource updates.
Okay, let's hear this.
ATF has brought in some of our top experts from our national response team that will assist with the sifting through the debris of the Tesla. And that's an abundance of caution to make sure that we've got the initiation sequence identified as best we can from the evidence that survived the thermal event of this explosion,
including his
and to
wallet
ensure
and
that
ID.
no other bad actors were involved in the initiation of that device.
Okay.
Also, my second update is to the firearms purchased by our subject on December 30th, 2024. Our ATF investigators were able to track down that lawful purchase at a gun store in Colorado.
It was a Desert Eagle, correct?
Our subject
50
arrived
caliber?
in that gun store by himself
Desert Eagle.
on December 27th and initiated the ATF Form 4473 and actually paid for those two firearms that were recovered from the Tesla on the 27th and was sole occupant of a vehicle arriving and departing that on that date. And then on the 30th, we have video evidence of our subject entering that gun store as the sole occupant of the Tesla. He actually received and transferred those two firearms and took into his possession at that time.
He gets
and
two firearms
departed as the
if his
sole
goal
occupant
is
in the
to
Tesla.
take his own life.
Those are the two updates that I'm here to provide to you at this time. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was pretty useless. Nothing that hadn't already been discussed. Sorry, I started 5 minutes early, guys, because this conference started early.
All right, with that, we'll entertain a couple questions. If you could, please identify yourself, and we'll go from there.
Okay,
David?
first question.
David Charles, KLAS TV. Thanks for taking my question. Two quick questions. One, the video that you showed of him with the Tesla was able to extract that for you from the device, from the car. The video you showed him walking around and at the charging stations.
Yeah, so let me just, the question was, can we, the video that we show, sorry, I was standing back there, so I wasn't sure which
Doesn't
one you
the
were
Tesla
looking at.
have
but
a
the question
camera
is, the
inside
video
the
that
car?
we showed at the Tesla charging stations, who provided that to us? I'll let Dory answer that.
without getting too far into the technicalities, there are various components in there that were retrieved. The SDMI card, it was not where the video was retrieved from. That was where we got the data to be able to determine that it was not in self-driving mode. However, Tesla did provide and helped our team be able to recover the thumb drive that records other types of data to include video by the Tesla.
And what state is this in? Do we know?
Kingman, Arizona.
Second question is about the detonation.
Yes.
There's a lot of questions.
How it
was
occurred
he
after he
able
took
to
his life.
Die by suicide and set this off. Can you just in very basic terms explain how that could happen to kind of stop these conspiracies that he's not in?
Yeah, so the second question is how are we able to explain the detonation versus the suicide? And we just believe it to be simultaneous at the time of the detonation. But again, that's why the ATF's bringing in the SABTs from outside to look at what that sequence was for the initiation of the explosion as well. And, you know, it's very difficult to see inside of those Teslas, even with the camera angles that we have. And so we still remain challenged on finding some of that exact timing on all of that. Go ahead.
Hi, Stephanie Price, Fox News.
Hi, Stephanie.
We're seeing reports that he had another alias as Matt Berg and went on a TV show in 2013. Have you guys been able to confirm that?
So the question is, if we knew of a alias of Matthew Berg and he had been previously on a television show, we've seen that reporting, but have not verified that reporting.
What was the nature of the show that he was on?
With NBC News, how would you describe his state of mind in these final days, given everything that you read from his notes app and the manifesto that you see that you referenced going around in the podcast? Have you guys been able to rule out that it was not from him, or is it still up in the air that it could have been from him?
So the question is, how would I describe his state of mind in the manifesto that was described on the podcast? Have we been able to determine whether that was from him or not? And I'll answer the first part is I'm not comfortable giving you state of mind just yet. I certainly am leaning a particular way. But again, I'd like to be factual to you. I think when you read the documents that we're going to give you a link to at the end of this press conference, that you can go in and make some of your own assumptions about what that is. But I will tell you that part of my hesitation on that is I know that we have a lot more documents and number of things for us to uncover. And so I want to be able to provide to you only the factual information when I have it. And so I'm not going to opine on what I believe his state of mind was at that particular time. But certainly you can see some troubling aspects in his personal life as well. And I don't know if you want to address the second part, Spencer.
Yeah, so in terms of the so-called manifesto that's circulating online, we have strong evidence to suggest that it was the subject that wrote it, but we haven't conclusively proven that yet. And that evidence relates to other evidence that we're finding that we're able to compare that lead us to believe it was in fact him who sent it.
J1?
Do you have an update
Is
on?
it J1?
Yes, J1 from 13. Do you have an update on the conditions of the other people who were injured?
The question is, do I have any updates on the conditions of the people who were injured? And I'm told that they're all relatively minor injuries, and they've all been released from the hospital.
Kristen Drummond with News 3. As you were showing us these excerpts, can you say why definitively he chose the Trump International Hotel and why he decided to come here to Las Vegas?
Yeah, the question is, with the excerpts that we showed, can we definitively identify why he chose the Trump Hotel Tower location as well as Las Vegas? And the answer is no. In fact, I think when you read through some of that, you might find that there were some other considerations as well for other locations. We can't verify all of that at this point, and so that's why I haven't talked about that publicly.
Do you know what other locations he was considering, and were they here in Nevada?
There was one location in Grand Canyon that was specifically talked about there, but we haven't been able to verify anything as well. All the way in the back.
She has a question.
Berenice Zúñiga with Univision Las Vegas. Thank you for taking my question. In regards to what happened in New Orleans, I know that you guys mentioned it's a coincidence, but what main evidence makes it different to what occurred over there? That is not being considered a terrorist attack here.
So the question is why don't we consider what happened in New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas connected? And the simple answer to that is we don't find anything to actually point us in that direction. There are those coincidences that we have spoken very openly about, but we have not found throughout this entire investigation anything that ties the two attacks directly together. Go ahead in the back.
I have a question. Were you guys able to identify the type of explosives that were in the vehicle and where he would be able to find those?
So the question is, were we able to identify the types of explosives that were in the vehicle and where he was able to find those? There's a mortar type fireworks in the back of the vehicle, some camping fuel, and we do know that it looks like from that document that we're going to provide to you that he may have stopped outside of a location in New Mexico and obtained those fireworks legally. But that is another aspect of the investigation that continues.
Hi, Noble Brigham with the Review Journal.
I know.
Thanks for taking my question. We've heard that the suspect wasn't opposed to President-elect Trump. Do we know anything about what his political views were?
The question is that we know that we've said that he was not opposed, the suspect was not opposed to President-elect Trump, and do we know what his political views are or were? There's a variety of different reporting out there, Noble, on what that is and some of the people around him and what their particular political views were. I think when you read some of these documents, you'll see that he actually calls it a stunt in one of these documents that we're going to release to you, that he was trying to get the attention of the American people because he was upset about a number of different things. But I'll let those writings speak for themselves. I'm not conclusively telling you anything about his political affiliations at this point, but I think that's more to come on that. Sir?
Anders Gutierrez at CBS News. Talk to us about you have an individual who is obviously struggling with mental health here.
Obviously.
Member of military service. There are others out there who may be struggling with this. A lot of mental health issues here. When they read these letters that you're about to release, how do you quell others who are struggling with the same from carrying out and seeing this as an inspiration? How do you quell the copycats out there?
Yeah, so the question is obviously there's mental health involved in this, as we've already talked about, and how do we quell the others that are similarly situated to him out there in America? And I think Spencer rightly talked about this for a moment is what you can tell by looking at this, that PTSD from a highly decorated United States currently serving military individual, from what I'm told was 5 tours of combat, obtained some of the highest awards you can get. It's not much different, quite frankly, than the reasoning why we started our wellness bureau here at Metro and taking care of the heart, mind, body, and soul of the people that are out there doing this work, because they're exposed to things, they see things, they hear things, they feel things, and they smell things that most normal people don't have to do. And the heroes that are serving in the military and on the front lines of America's policing are challenged that way. And so I think, we need to really pay attention to those individuals, pay attention to what mental health in America looks like. And I think this is just one more incident that brings that to the forefront of where it is that we are in talking about these types of things. I'll take one more.
Okay.
Rio AP, thanks for taking my question.
Sure.
Do you know why he chose a Cybertruck? Was he trying to send a message, considering who the CEO is? And then just really quickly, could you confirm if the podcast you're talking about is the Sean Ryan podcast? I don't want to assume.
The Sean what?
Is it the Sean Ryan podcast?
Is that yeah. So can I tell you why he chose the Cybertruck is the first question?
The answer is
no, not really. I haven't been able to find anything definitive about it.
Things to say
Secondly,
about it while
is
he
the
was
Sean
driving.
Ryan podcast, and that's the podcast that I'm referring to. And I'm sorry, there was one more hand over here that go ahead.
Hi, Tannenbaum, Chapter 13 here in Las Vegas.
Hi.
Has there been any more speculation, more understanding on why he chose the route that he chose? Obviously, coming from Colorado, you can go through Utah. That's a more common way to hit the 15. Any more understanding when we're thinking about all the different potential sites that he could have chosen for this?
So the question is do we know why he chose the route that he chose? I don't think we can tell you we know why he chose it, but I can tell you that there's some writings in those documents that we're going to release to you that he mentioned going to the border as well as going to the Grand Canyon. And so we continue to look through all of the available evidence to help us.
It's amazing once you think someone's crazy.
And with that, I'd just like to again thank you all for the
nothing they
great
say
work you're doing
can be
in
taken
helping us get this story out. And
as true.
obviously, as we get additional information, we'll push it out to you. Thank you very much.
People think the guy in the back looks like he needs blood. That's not nice. He might be anemic. Who knows? So that's the press conference on Matthew Livelsberger, who is the suspect in
Sorry,
the
I'm
Las
actually
Vegas.
and I didn't realize it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Interesting on the hot mic.
I did that yesterday. You never saw me. And I was like,
All right. The end is here. It has ended, people. Good afternoon. Sorry, it was late, but then early because I was going to start this thing in the afternoon and did an episode of The Unusual Suspects, which is going to be aired live at 6 o'clock. That's the latest update in the Las Vegas situation. We're going to get to that in a bit because the so-called manifesto, it's funny, I had seen Ashton Forbes because Ashton Forbes, I had him on the channel, the guy talking about the Malaysia flight MH, crap, I forget the name, the Malaysian flight that disappeared, and he has his theory as to what he thinks happens. I saw earlier today that he tweeted out something about the suspect in Vegas talking about drones and gravitational manipulation, and I didn't really know exactly what was going on. Now it seems that this manifesto, which I pulled up and we're going to go over in a second, was disclosed on the Sean Ryan Show podcast, and we're going to read that in a second because it's absolutely wild. Play the podcast, Viva. I'll play the podcast, but it's an hour. So Sophia Agape in our locals community says play the podcast. I'm going to listen to it later, but yeah, this is kind of the end, the new to me, so I'll get to that in a bit. Good afternoon, everybody. Like I wasn't planning on covering the live conference of the Vegas incident, but it all ties together where you have the FBI now. Understand the difference in the treatment of the Vegas event to the treatment of the residents of the suspected terrorist in the New Orleans event. One, you know, they're treating this methodically and meticulously, and in the other, I'm going to play you a video. You will not believe it because it's unbelievable. So we're going to get there. Good afternoon, everyone. Share the link around, and we're going to get started in a second. I forgot yesterday. I'm so stupid and senile that yesterday during our show, I forget to actually do our wonderful sponsor. And so I'm going to do it today, which is our coffee, people. 1775. It's time to make mornings great again. If your coffee tastes like it was brewed in a UN meeting, watered down, directionless, and catering to the lowest common denominator, you deserve better. Enter 1775's Vitality Coffee, bold and built for patriots who lead, not follow. Lion's Mane and Rishi sharpen your focus faster than calling out fake news, which we're going to do today. While cordyceps power your energy like a Trump tweet at 2 a.m. And by the way, I'm going to be at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow night. I might get to see Trump. Those hand-picked Bolivian beans, they're so bold, they make Starbucks taste like it was brewed with the tears of woke baristas. No fillers, no compromise, and proudly backed by Rumble. This is a Rumble partner. They love you, and they respect you and your valuable hard-earned dollars. The platform, Rumble, stands for truth, independence, and the fight for freedom. Head over to 1775coffee.com. Use promo code VIVA, 15% off, and make your mornings great again with coffee that delivers bold, uncompromising quality and supports the freedom that Rumble is out there on the front lines fighting for on a daily basis. And we have a second sponsor. Let me see if I can actually do this one here. No, hold on one second. I got to bring up a little video in the backdrop, but I can't seem to find it when I'm here. Oh, here it is, peeps. Let's see this. I go like this. Bada bing, bada boom. People, are the globalists gearing up for a pandemic scare after failing at the ballot box in November? The wellness company, people, if you don't know them. Just weeks before President Trump's inauguration, California Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a bird flu state of emergency, granting himself sweeping powers reminiscent of COVID-19 policies. He'll still be eating out the laundry, though, or whatever the laundry place that he was at. This comes after a severe case of H5N1 bird flu was reported in Louisiana. Critics like Nicholas Hulscher warn that pandemic fears may be weaponized to challenge Trump's agenda, including the nomination of RFK Jr. to lead the HHS, Health and Human Services. Is this a health crisis or a power play? Last summer, Dr. Peter McCullough warned about the bird flu, linking the virus's rapid spread to gain-of-function research, now a common practice at many labs globally. Dr. McCullough urges early prevention just in case recommending a contagion emergency kit from the wellness company, his medical board approved solution with 5 critical life-saving medications like ivermectin, Tamiflu, a nebulizer, and hydroxychloroquine. Every household can now have access to these hard-to-get medications in the event of another pandemic. Remember, they actually outlawed ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. We can now say the words because the censorship, at least as far as those go, has been lifted. Get your kit today by filling out a digital intake form. The kit arrives in 1 to 2 weeks. Don't wait until the deep state puts their plans into action. Stay ready for the unexpected. Head over to dwc.health/Viva. Promo code Viva gets you $32 off and free shipping. U.S. residents only, people. So Canadians, you are, as we say in the industry, unfortunately, SOL, but that's it. twc.health/Viva, $32 off and free shipping. Do it. Get it and keep it in your house. It's amazing. The same playbook. They're talking about a pandemic flu now. And same thing. We're going to start seeing videos out of China. People dropping dead in the streets. Okay. Las Vegas. Where do we start? I mean, we'll start. We just listened to the press conference presser. The manifesto to which they were referring in that press conference is right here. Bada bing, bada boom. So this is Sean Ryan. I'm not going to.
And our stuff's been exploding.
It's got such a beautiful, deep, soothing voice. The real email manifesto sent to Sam Shumate, analyst, remnant. So we're going to go back here. This is the alleged manifesto, or at least an email. Manifesto is a bit of an overused word these days. From the suspected individual in the Las Vegas improvised vehicular explosive device. They talk about meticulous, crafty. This guy's a Green Beret, years of military experience, and then throws a bunch of fireworks and gas canisters into the trunk of a rented Tesla Cybertruck. We're going to read this. This is off Sean Ryan's Twitter feed, and so the email addresses are in there. I guess it's from DABERMLB. So let's see. That's Dabermelby. How does that work into Matthew Livelsberg? Either way, okay. This is the email. I'm quoting from the email. In case I do not make it to my decision point or on to the Mexico border, I'm sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 Jan and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with, quote, drones, end quote, is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China in the East Coast, but throughout history by the US. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPCEN location operation center location for this activity in the box is below. All the font looks good here. I'm just looking to see if there's any indication as to why this would be a fake. I don't know what this yellow bar is here. It looks like a cursor maybe. I don't know. We'll just read this without questioning the authenticity right now. China has been launching from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they use the balloon for, I don't know what, SIGINT and EISR, which are also part of the integrated comms system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of the unmanned AC. They're the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. Dude, I'm telling you, this smells like an operation. I'm cynical, I'm skeptical, and this smells like an operation. It's checkmate. It can park it over the White House. USG needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them, and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed. And they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive VB IED. Oh, that's That's the vehicular improvised explosive device, vehicular something explosive device. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrike in Nimruz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, Department of Defense, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civcas that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. US FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all of the aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with the US FORA and agent redacted of the DEA, so I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with Jen Miller's IO staff on this, as well as the response to Bala Murghab, AOB, commander at the time, yada, yada, can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war, because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. For vetting my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty 18Z out of 110. My profile is public. I have an active TSSA UAP, USAP access. Okay. Do we go to the chat and see if people think this is authentic, legit, or an operation? Like all of the last 2 years of discussing unidentified aerial phenomenon, drones, aliens, and for the last 2 years, Rogan has been saying, I want to believe in UAPs, but this feels like an operation. Molten Salt says ramblings. Dude, he may have witnessed war crimes. He may have witnessed a war crime, but he is out there. Without getting, I have never been institutionalized, so I don't want you to think I'm talking about myself, but too embarrassed to admit it. Full stop. Growing up, I had a number of friends, several friends that were had experience. This was even before practicing, where we did involuntary confinement or motions for confinement, which is when people don't want to be confined. You have to go to court, convince a judge that they need to be locked up for their own protection or for the protection of others. I've seen manic bipolar, manic breaks. I had a client once. That's what I tend to think this looks like. And it's the question is, how would he even have the information that he says he has in that email? Assume the email is from him. Let's just assume it's from the individual who's now deceased. That is a lot of information touching everything: China, technologies, UAP, war crimes, end of the world, catastrophizing World War III. How he would even have access to the information that he claims to have information about in there. He's a Green Beret. Why he would have information about advanced technologies. Here's a fair point from Kami to Viva. If you're worried about being tracked, why would you rent a Cybertruck? Well, in the, I won't say I'm not going to call these delusions, but in the thinking of the individual, whoever drafted that, if it's really him, he wanted to be visible. I mean, he says it in the email, like, I need to remain visible so they can't do anything, secretly. It's an amazing thing, though. Once they've convinced you someone's mentally ill or detached from reality or having an episode, there's literally nothing that you will believe that they say that you'll believe, and there's literally nothing that they could do that you wouldn't believe they could do. So he believes he's being tracked. He wants to remain out there and visible. He wants to remain visible so that he doesn't get abducted, and so he gets two guns, to remain visible. Packs the car with fireworks and Coleman gas stuff in order to remain visible, so that they won't abduct him, but he knows that they're tracking him. And so he goes on a massive road trip from Colorado to Las Vegas. Although he ended up in Las Vegas, maybe he's on his way to Mexico, but if he's going to the Mexico border, I'm no map magician. I don't think he'd go that way. Let's see something here. Google. If we go Colorado to Mexico, map. I don't think you go that way. Do you? Let me see. Directions. It's probably not map. Directions. I think you go straight south. Drive south through New Mexico following Interstate 25, then connect to the 10, which will lead you to the Mexico border in El Paso, Texas. I mean, you're going out of your way to go to Las Vegas. And they've got the video of him going to Las Vegas. So if he's trying to get to the Mexico border, that seems like one heck of a odd roundabout way to do it. So I'm inclined to believe, with my experience of having witnessed people with delusional thoughts or manic bipolar, especially if they're off meds and if they have PTSD, that's the thinking. That's catastrophizing. That's having knowledge that will save humanity from a catastrophe that will compromise humanity. How he even had the knowledge he purports to have in there. But then again, go to Sean Ryan's X account. He just blew the whole thing wide open. This is BS. I don't know what so we just did that, by the way. Thank you, the Rickus. I don't know what you mean by the this. Is the this is BS the email in Sean Ryan BS or the press conference BS? I am not convinced by not the authenticity of, but the contents of, even assuming it comes from him. That sounds like someone who's had a break to me. Adnil Cat says, why doesn't he get the presumption of innocence? This is from our locals community. I think, well, he's deceased, so it's tougher to give the presumption of innocence. I mean, you still refer to the guy in New Orleans as the suspect, even though I think pretty much everybody assumes he did it. Convenient special OP considering Biden's white supremacy rhetoric and need for a reason to impose martial law. I mean, I can see that. I can appreciate that as well. We got Encryptus in the house over at our locals, The Hill. This is we're gonna get to the hush money payment in a bit as well. Let's see. Sigint is signals intelligence. Okay, that is from the Modern Stoic over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Thank you. We got Admiral Cat says he was taken out because he shared this info. But then the Tesla Cybertruck, that was the question I had. That would have been my question for the press conference. They have facial recognition cameras inside. You know, if the driver's losing what the hell the word I'm looking? Distracted drivers. Freaking car that we rented up in Canada, a Mazda. Every time I would look down to the left or right, it would say distracted driver. I was like, dude, you don't. But bottom line, there's cameras inside. So I presume they even have the video of the final act before the truck exploded. So they would know if he was taken out by someone else or taken out beforehand and then driven in, self-driven in. I can understand what people think. He was literally killed by somebody else. Then the vehicle, it's a self-driving Tesla. They self-drive it up into wherever, give it a destination, and then detonate. And so it looks like he took his own life. Truck blows up. His ID survives the fire, et cetera, et cetera. But that would have been my question. Have they gotten any video footage from any internal camera within the Tesla, which they undoubtedly have, and which I presume Elon would more than readily share with authorities? So that would have been my question, but they didn't get to that question. Now you're exactly right. It's substance abuse and mental illness, says Outlook_com over at Viva Barnes. And then we got, he wrote and sounds credible, or the CIA did it. Neither is good for the truth. No, the idea that they have this drone technology and it's game over. If it's game over, then why hasn't it been game over for the last couple of years for whatever? If they've had this, China's had this earth-shattering, war-winning technology. Then the bottom line is, this is going to a Nick Sortor tweet from earlier where he was engaging with Elon, where Elon said, did he have any indication of self-harm or harm to other tendencies? And it's one thing also if he had self-harm tendencies or thoughts or whatever, but for a Green Beret who's fought for the military to do something like this that could have easily, and I mean, it's actually something of a miracle that it didn't hurt, or I should say kill, because it did injure other people. Someone who's had a break, who's self-harm induced, it's the next level to take it to a harming others. And so the question is, did he have anything? And Nick, it's an interesting tweet. He said, I should probably, let me see if can I go back here? No, I'm in the, Elon said, did he have any indications of suicidal thoughts? And he says, no direct evidence of that I've seen anywhere, says Nick. The only thing that I've seen so far that could potentially make someone suicidal is that his wife left him 6 days prior due to his infidelity. He did have a young baby as well, 6 months. A bigger question I have is what would have made him homicidal? The truck was detonated in the high pedestrian traffic area with people standing around. Hard to believe there wasn't an intent to kill. If something's going to make someone snap, and if they're already suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or other mental issues, I don't know about financial issues, but if someone's prone to snap, having a newborn baby that you're not going to get to see because your wife left you 6 days earlier because of your infidelity and maybe other behavior, dude, that's not a good reason. That is just an understandable explanation for what would make someone snap. And I can tell you from the practice of law, a spouse leaving you, and if it is because of infidelity, it's going to be an ugly divorce that's going to cost you. If it's because of infidelity, there might have been other behavioral issues, which may or may not be attributable to other underlying mental conditions. Your wife leaves you 6 days before you go out and do something like this with their 6-month-old baby, and your life as you knew it, in addition to everything else that's been hurting you for the last decade, there's no justification and there's no but to that. There is an explanation, and that's pretty darn good explanation as to what could have potentially happened or what could have potentially set him off on this homicidal, suicidal path. Where's Barry says on CommentTube, can you unmute me on Rumble? I don't know what you're using. Oh, let me see here. I'll see if I can get your name. I asked you what your name was because I don't recall having muted you. Nathan Danner, I see it because he tagged me. If you're worried about being tracked, why would you rent a Cybertruck? Okay, I got that one before. Mr. Quick says, Viva, your Tesla is a bomb if they wanted it to be. Points smartphone explosions of ECIG. He would have driven into the tower for max damage. True. And those lithium batteries in those Teslas are, oh crap, I just lost the super chats now because is there any way to, oh yeah, here we go. I can see them here. Can you unmute me? Okay. Dawn Dussault says, Happy New Year's, Viva. If you haven't heard of Fletcher Prouty, he was on The Real Mr. X from Oliver Stone's JFK film. He has done interviews in the past that would expose a lot of cover-ups. And with whom? Let me screen grab that because that sounds very interesting. And then we got Where's Barry? It's Where's Barry on Rumble, was muted for spamming, was trying to get your attention to another spammer, not trying to spam. Wanted to get your attention over there. Okay, that is a fair enough explanation. Let me do that when I pause for something. Okay. So that's the Vegas situation. The Vegas situation is the guy allegedly bought, by all accounts, 2 firearms at a store and shot himself between the orbital, from what it sounds, with a Desert Eagle 50 caliber. I am no firearm aficionado, and there's no but to that. I have been explained that is that's a way to make sure that they have to do a DNA test to determine the body. What I'm curious about is how long it takes. How long does it take to get DNA results? They said they did a DNA test, and they've got the results already for an incident that occurred 2 days ago. AI Overview says the time it takes to get a DNA result depends on the type of test and the complexity of the test. The complexity of the case. Paternity testing, 4 to 6 weeks using a swab. Ancestry, 6 to 8 weeks. Dog DNA, 4 to 6 weeks. Forensic DNA, the time it takes to complete the analysis depends on the complexity of the case, can range from weeks to months. Forensic laboratories may have a backlog of DNA casework that can take months to process. Some businesses offer same-day or one-day results for an additional fee. Well, there you have it. I was just curious as to how they could have gotten DNA results within 48 hours when I understood that it takes a little bit longer, depending on it. So I presume that they're not going to make a bold-faced lie like that in public. So they got the DNA and confirmed the identity of the corpse in the vehicle. So that answers one question at least. My goodness, AI is getting good. Okay, and we got from our locals community, Cousin Eddie says, a guy trained in explosives well enough to have made a bomb powerful enough to bring down the Trump hotel, quote, kills himself, end quote, before driving to the hotel on autopilot. Even Money says he is alive and on the run. Guy was trying to whistleblow about war crimes he was part of. Did it auto drive after he took his own life? They said there that it was not there was no evidence that it had been auto driven. Nike 7 says if he is delusional, stressed, etc., there's always a manifesto. Usually a person leaves nothing, or a suicide note, no mention of family. That's another interesting thing. Like he's writing this page long quote manifesto before doing something like this and doesn't mention anything about his wife, his newborn baby. This is all speculative above and beyond what we know as a matter of fact. I'm skeptical about that email. And I'll leave it at that. And not of Sean Ryan at all, full stop, and not of the individual to whom it was sent, full stop. People are sharing the info that they get, that they think is newsworthy, that they think is sufficiently credible. I'm skeptical of the authenticity of that email. It would be very, very peculiar that in your I'm on the run video or email, manifesto, whatever you want to call it, with a 6-month-old newborn and a wife who now we know left him 6 days earlier, there's no mention of your wife or kid. No, if something happens to me, tell my kid that I love him or her. I don't know what gender was assigned to that baby at birth. So that is it. That's the Vegas thing situation, people. Let me see if did I miss anything? We got the Sean Ryan podcast. And that's it. I'm telling you one thing, though. Holy crap. Listening to these press conferences, this is why I never got into trouble in my practice as a lawyer. And that's a full stop. I was always very well respected and did a good job. I cannot stand the faux politeness, the faux, I'd like to thank all of our, it might have been also one of my flaws as an employer. I never believed in the compliment sandwich because I don't like getting the compliment sandwich. Viva, you draft very well, and but you need to calm down. Now, just forget the compliments. Just tell me what I need to improve. I don't need to be told what I'm already, decent at. But listening to them pat themselves on the back. Oh, I'd like to thank all of this wonderful team for working. Guys, first of all, it's your job. Second of all, get to the point. Oh, and we got, let me see here, pin. We got, here's Ashton Forbes. Yeah, that was actually where I saw the tweet before any of this. Ashton Forbes put out the tweet. Let me take this down and bring up Ashton Forbes. That's what I would say is something that sounds a little too convenient. Do we want to play it for the full 4 minutes? I mean, we don't need to if we just played it.
He said, in case I do not make it.
All right, so we got the whole thing. I basically just did the full read through the email. A video from the Sean Ryan Show, must listen. Sounds like the guy was taken up because of this information. He was being tracked and followed. Wild story, ZPE disclosure 2025. Yeah, I'm skeptical. I would bet it's more likely than not that the email, I would say, in my view, even money that the email is authentic. And if it's authentic, I think it's more likely than not that we're dealing with an individual who had a break. And he might have had a break for personal reasons, which set him off mentally, which is why he doesn't make reference to the personal reasons that set him off in the email, assuming it's authentic. And that's the best we can do right now, people, based on the evidence that we have at the time. We've got a meme that I'm not bringing up over at our locals community. Oh, Lordy, people. What else is going on? I did The Unusual Suspects. It's going to air at 6:00. It'll be a great episode. Give it a watch after we're done with this. But I mentioned that I watched The Big Short, not The Big Squeeze. What the hell is The Big Squeeze? I'm thinking of like The Big Short, The Big Squeeze, The Short Squeeze. I watched The Big Short yesterday on the flight back, and it was great. Watched another documentary called Tangled. Not Tangled, that's a cartoon. Called Caught, which deals with the Sea Shepherd, the anti-whaling unit, and their mission off the coast of France to end the dolphin bycatch in the commercial fishing out there. It was actually kind of a fantastic documentary, and I really want to get the guy from the Sea Shepherd on the channel now. And then I watched the first half hour of Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle as the plane was landing, because I've already seen that movie so many times I don't need to see the whole thing. A line that I love out of The Big Short, when Steve Carell is talking to the brokers, the mortgage brokers. And he's like, you guys are giving out mortgages to foreigners who don't understand they're on a variable rate, and that when the rate comes time to renew, they're going to get screwed. And he's like, well, we get 10,000, we get a bigger commission off a variable rate mortgage than we do off a fixed rate for 5 years. And so we push it. They don't speak English. They're happy to get a home. They sign on paper. And Steve Carell's like, and this all has to do with the housing bubble as to how it crashed the way it did, because you're giving these loans that nobody's going to be able to afford them once the variable, you have to renegotiate the variable. And then you've gone from a nice low interest 1 year variable rate or whatever to whatever the hell it goes to afterwards. And as relates to explaining the housing crisis, and Steve Carell's like, he takes his buddy aside. He's like, why are they confessing to us? His friend says, they're not confessing, they're bragging. And it's an amazing thing when you watch a movie and there's a line so striking because it applies to so many circumstances That's how you know you've got a magic quote from a movie, a magic line that you'll never forget. They're not confessing, they're bragging, because it's all a question of perspective. People showing off how they're making an easy buck because of loopholes in systems that will take the systems down, but they don't care because they're just sucking the fat off the bone in the meantime. And so that line in that movie, Joe Rogan says this all the time. It's the old Japanese quote. I forget what it is. Once you see the path, you can see it. Once you see the path broadly, you see the path in all things. Once you understand that oftentimes the criminals, the true criminals, the ones that don't get caught, when you think that they're confessing, and in reality, they're actually just bragging. Which brings us to what the F is going on with the FBI. Oh, and by the way, geez Louise, we're going to end this on CommieTube. We're going to do this entire segment on Rumble. I know some people out there, you guys are, I forgot to end the stream yesterday. We're going to go over to Rumble, so get your butts on over there. And if you don't want to go over there, you can go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We're going to talk about the FBI. Link. That is Rumble, and here is vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Come for the party, stay for the after party, be among above average individuals. Before we do it, let me see here. Do we got any more? Yes, we got Ghost of Recon over on CommieTube. Says, I've worked in classified environments before, and the info he's describing would the info he's describing, I guess, would be special compartmented information, the highest classification as an 18C. He would have no need to know any of that, and so wouldn't be read in. Okay, I understand what this is. That's my feeling as well. And then we got Alexander B says, Tesla confirmed the truck never put into autopilot. Okay, that's what I thought as well. And then before we go on over to Rumble, the free speech platform, because I see Ginger Ninja in the house. Sir, how goes the battle? Ginger Ninja made me that chessboard in the back. Not the pieces. The chessboard, those pieces I got in France in 1999. They're the best pieces I've ever got. Ginger Ninja says, Viva, I love your live stream, but your hair could be trimmed to look like your logo again, maybe. Also, your vlogs are good too. Not sure I can do that. All right. Get your butts on over to Rumble, people. Viva Frei on Rumble. And while we do that, before we leave CommieTube, let me go and unmute Where's Barry? Give me a second. We're going to do this right now. I want to see that number drop on CommieTube and come over to Rumble. Not so we can do anything we can't do on Rumble. We're not going to. In fact, I'm going to post the segment later on CommieTube. But because we're going to vote with our eyeballs, we're going to vote with our dollar, and we're going to vote with our support. Chat settings. I guess I go to chat settings. Then I go to moderation. Then I go to moderate. No, I'm not going to moderation. I want to go to, oh gosh, blocked words and phrases. I don't have any of that. Live stream moderation. Moderation. Muting. Okay, let's see here. Where's Barry? Search. Barry? Ye have been unmuted, Barry. Don't spam, please. Everyone, welcome Barry back to Rumble. Barry? Sorry for this. This is why I don't like muting or blocking people, but spamming will get you there, because that spamming and whatever that dude who was promoting CP over on Rumble, he's gone for good. So Barry, welcome back. And now we're going to end on CommieTube and head on over to Rumble and Locals right now.